Hello and welcome. Today we're taking a look at the A-10C2 in DCS. In the 1970s, the US Air Force created a competition for a new close air support aircraft. The winner of this competition would be the A-10. The A-10 is known as a tank of an aircraft, and it had a few design features that made it very famous. These include the twin turbofan engines at the back, a titanium tub around the cockpit, and most importantly, the GAU-8 30mm cannon. Because as we know, the A-10 go. The A-10A would have its share of successes, but would also have its share of failures in the form of blue-on-blue incidents. This was in great part due to the lack of technology available to the pilots of these earlier A-10s. In the mid-2000s, this issue would be fixed with the introduction of the A-10C. This upgrade would turn the A-10 from a simplistic aircraft to an electronic warrior capable of fighting in the modern era. But that's enough of a history lesson. Today we're here to talk about the aircraft inside of DCS. This aircraft is a ground attack and close air support platform. That means its only job is to destroy things on the ground. As we dive into this aircraft, the first place to look is the way she flies. She's very slow, but that doesn't mean she's cumbersome. Thanks to its large flat wings and enormous control surfaces, the A-10 is very manoeuvrable at low speed. It's also a very forgiving aircraft to fly. It also has a fairly good autopilot system. This allows the pilot to focus more on using the weapon systems than having to pilot the aircraft. As well as this, it's a very stable platform, making takeoffs and landings very easy. Making things even better, it's very easy to move on the ground. You're very unlikely to tip the aircraft if you go slightly too fast. But of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. As I've already said, the aircraft's very slow. This means that if you get yourself into trouble at low speed, it simply doesn't have the power to get yourself out of it. Moving on from the way the A-10 flies, let's now talk about its range. The engines on the A-10 are fairly proficient and it has large fuel tanks. The real limiting factor here is its speed once again. That being said, if you want to loiter over a target area all day, this is the platform for you. Next up is payload. The A-10C can carry 16,000 pounds, that's 7,200 kilos of ordnance, on 11 hardpoints. Speaking of payload, the A-10 can carry a wide variety of weapons. These include Mavericks, dumb bombs, laser-guided bombs, GPS-guided bombs, rockets, APKWS rockets, and cluster bombs, as well as AIM-9s for self-defense and of course the 30mm GAU-8 cannon. Thanks to this variety of weapons, no target on the ground is safe, as well as its offensive weapons. The A-10C can carry electronic countermeasure pods, which greatly enhances survivability against incoming missiles and radar-guided weapons. And on top of that, it can also carry drop tanks if you need to, for some reason, extend your range even further. To finish with the pylons, we have the AN/AAQ-28 Lightning II targeting pod. This is a forward-looking infrared pod that allows the pilot to designate GPS-guided munitions and designate laser-guided munitions for himself or others. This targeting pod has excellent zoom and is able to be used day or night thanks to its infrared capabilities. This brings us inside of the cockpit where the pilot has access to two multifunction displays, a heads-up display and a helmet-mounted display, as well as the old steam dials. Overall, the cockpit in the A-10C is very compact. You're capable of seeing all the information you need in front of you without having to move your head. Available on the left MFD is the TAD. This is the Tactical Awareness Display. This is essentially a moving map, but with additional features, such as showing waypoints, other aircraft that you're data linked with, where your sense point of interest is, and even where other aircraft sense points of interest are. This capability, along with the helmet-mounted display that also shows all of the things that your other aircraft that you're data linked with are doing, means teamwork in the A-10C is very easy. So now we've discussed what the aircraft has to offer, let's take a look at actually using the jet in game. This is certainly a hard thing to talk about with all aircraft in DCS, as the game itself is so varied. So for the context of this video, I'm going to be talking about it in the context of a PvE multiplayer dynamic campaign server, as I believe this shows off the aircraft in the most diverse situations. The first and most important thing for keeping the A-10 alive is it's actually not in your control. It's having someone out there performing cap and potentially seed, as against long-range air defences and enemy aircraft, the plane is a complete sitting duck. It doesn't have the speed to be able to get itself out of the awkward situations, as I've mentioned previously. I know I've just said seed is something you want someone else to be doing. However, if you're working with a teammate or multiple teammates who are carrying harms, the A-10 makes an excellent second wave aircraft. For this use case, you want to be coming in low and carrying Mavericks and cluster munitions, as air defences tend not to be particularly hard targets, but you still want those Mavericks to give you the extra range for those slightly shorter range air defences that the harms aren't taking out. In general, this technique will work for most high threat environments, not just if you're partaking in a siege mission. On the other end of the spectrum, if you're in a fairly low threat environment, and you're just out dealing with large groups of vehicles, your best bet is to stay high and use the range given to you by your Mavericks and the Lightning targeting pod to be able to identify targets further away. By staying high, this allows you to use your guided bombs and guided rockets at a range that SPAA and short-range air defense missiles aren't going to be able to touch you, so you don't just have to rely on Mavericks to deal with those air defense threats. One of the biggest mistakes people make with the A-10 is relying too heavily on the gun. Yes, it's very powerful, but against modern main battle tanks, it's ineffective, and if you're using it, you're so close that the enemy can shoot you back with even small arms fire. This is simply not a risk worth taking when you have so much other ordnance at your fingertips. I'm going to finish this section off by saying, this is not a complete overview of the way to use this aircraft. It's just a small insight into the way that I do it. There are loads of resources out there on the use of the aircraft in the real world that you can translate into game. However, remember, DCS is still a game. Those tactics that have taken decades to build, they might not necessarily work the way they're intended to in the real world. The other big thing to remember when using these real world tactics inside of DCS is what type of mission that they're designed for. There's no point in looking at real world coin tactics if you're then going to go and fly a mission involving a peer-on-peer adversary. The last thing we're going to take a look at is the loadout that I would recommend taking. I did intend on having a real-world loadout section in this video as well, but since the A-10 hasn't seen a standing army adversary since before its C-model upgrade, there simply isn't enough data on the weapons it would carry now against such an adversary for me to be able to make enough of an educated guess to be able to add to this video. So to get on with it, this is my general purpose loadout. This is for if I'm going to be doing multiple missions in one flight, or I don't necessarily know what mission or what the target's going to be in the mission area. To start with, I take only 90% fuel, as this is a heavy loadout, but I know full well I'm going to run out of munitions before I run out of fuel. So we're going to start with the outer pylons and then work our way in. On pylon 1 we have the ALQ-184 ECM pod. We carry this as it disrupts radar and missile tracking of the aircraft. Next up we have pylon 11. On this we carry two A9M Sidewinders. This is carried mostly in hopes of just scaring off enemy aircraft if they get too close, or potentially taking down enemy helicopters if they're in the area. Next up on pylon 2 I carry 7 APKWS rockets. This is a real force multiplier, as I use them as essentially mini Mavericks against any targets that don't require the full anti-tank missile. On pylon 10 we have the Lightning targeting pod. I won't go over that again as I've already done it in this video. On pylons 3 and 9 I carry 2 of each AGM-65D Mavericks. This is the IR variant. I carry the IR variant as many modern tanks and vehicles have laser warning receivers. These Mavericks are the longest range and highest penetration weapons that I carry, so I use them almost exclusively against the most dangerous targets to me and the hardest to kill. Following on from that, we have Pylon 4, where I carry 2 Mark 82 500-pound general purpose bombs. I carry these for use against low threat static targets, so I don't need to then waste a guided munition on it. Then on Pylon 8 we have the CBU-103 Wind Corrected Munition Dispenser. This is essentially a guided cluster bomb that carries 202 bomblets. I use this against groups of targets that are clumped together but also aren't too heavily armoured. While it will do some work against tanks, you're far from guaranteed to kill. Last but not least, on Pylons 5 and 7 I carry one of each GBU-38 500-pound JDAM. I carry this as my most general purpose weapon against static targets. With that, this concludes my video on the A10C2 tank killer in DCS. If you've enjoyed and you've made it this far, consider subscribing and please like the video. In the comments, let me know if you think I've done something wrong or done something right, or just want to have a discussion about the aircraft or DCS in general. Many thanks.